Hola clase. Let's talk about can, or in other words, to be able to. So, because if you can do something, you're able to do that. All right. Just most of the time we say I can. We don't say I am able to. Okay. So if you need to pause, get a piece of paper. You need to add these to your notes because you have to memorize these 5 forms of can. This is actually a review, un repaso. Okay? We've already done the 5 forms of can, but go ahead and write them down just to jog your memory and make sure you know these. Okay? So pause if you need to. Grab a piece of papel. Okay, can, or to be able to, comes from the base word poder. Guys, these base words are called infinitives. That means it is only an action. Notice it says can. It doesn't tell me who. To be able to. It doesn't tell me who is able to. So the base word, the infinitive, ends in ER. So when it ends in ER, there is no subject. There is not a person. Okay? So I hope you remember the 5 forms of can. Let's review those. Puedo. Very first song we did. Puedo ir al baño. Puedes. Puede. Podemos. Pueden. Notice that the nosotros, the we form, does not get this UE. These are stem changing verbs, the technical term, if you want to know the grammar term. They get a spelling change in these forms. Okay? I always think we are normal. See, it just gets the POD. We are normal. Okay, so if you have not memorized these 5 forms of can, puedo, puedes, puede, podemos, pueden, pause. Go through those 5 times. Out loud. Puedo, puedes, puede, podemos, pueden. Okay, if you're continuing on, it means you have those memorized. Now, don't forget, since August of the new school year, since the beginning of school, we have learned people. If you don't know those, it is time you memorize those. You have to have those memorized. Because who lives right here? Yo. So puedo can only mean I can. Yo puedo. Who lives right here? Tú. You. Informal. You're talking to your buddy. You can. Tú puedes. And it has to end in ES. Yo has to end in O. You can't say yo poder. Tú poder. Okay? You have to say tú puedes. Who lives right here? I'm giving you a second, so make sure you're yelling those out loud. Él, ella, usted. So this word can mean he can, she can, you can, talking to your teacher formally. Usted puede. Él puede, ella puede, usted puede. Okay? Who lives up here? Nosotros or nosotras. Podemos. Nosotros or nosotras podemos. We can. Who lives right down here? Ellos, ellas, and ustedes. So that means pueden can mean they can, you all can. Pueden. It is very, very common in Spanish for native speakers to drop these pronouns. Because look at here, puedo by itself means I can. Puedes by itself, because of this ES, means you can. Podemos. I hear that. I see that. I know automatically because of this it means we can. And this tells me it came from to be able to. Now, this is where it gets tricky because it can mean 3 different things. So, if we say él puede now, it can only mean he can. Ella puede now, it can only mean she can. Ellos pueden, now it only means they can. If I say ellas pueden, it only means they can, and it's a group of girls. And if I say ustedes pueden, now it means you all can. It no longer means they can. I always encourage my first year students, maybe even my second year, go ahead and use these people. And if someone who speaks Spanish says, oh, you don't have to have those, they are exactly right. You do not have to have them. But until you know them well, you need to use them. Okay? So if you're having trouble with this, this is your tarea. This is your homework. Yo puedo, tú puedes, él puede, nosotros podemos, ellos pueden. Get it memorized. Okay? Put this in your word bank. Poder. Can and to be able to came from poder. It equals poder. All of these forms came from poder. Okay? All right. That's in the song. La invitación, the little dude, he says, can you go with me? ¿Puedes ir de pesca conmigo? ¿Puedes ir de pesca conmigo? And she said, no. No puedo ir contigo. Why? Because she wants to do something else. So we need to talk about the verb to want. So if I want to just say to want, I don't want to say I want, you want, he wants, she wants. I want to say to want. Querer. It's actually a hard word to say for us English speakers. Querer. Okay? Notice it ends in ER. If your base word, your base verb, your infinitive, it ends in ER. It doesn't have a subject. We've talked about this before. I'm just going back over it because this is your second language and it takes a while. But listen to me. Querer means to want. It does not mean I want, you want, he wants. It only means to want. I don't know who wants. Okay. Well, let's talk about who wants. Quiero. It ends in O. So therefore, I know I am doing the wanting. I want. Quiero. The little girl says, no puedo ir contigo porque yo quiero ir de compras. Yo quiero ir de compras. ¿Quieres? I know by looking at this. ES represents you. It means you want. Quiere. Lives down here, so it represents he wants, she wants, you formal want. Queremos. Who does this represent? You know because where I wrote this, who lives in this box? We want. Queremos. And quieren. Ustedes, ellos, ellas quieren. Okay? Notice how these get an IE. We are normal. And we just get this stem right here. This is the stem. And this is the ending. Okay? Okay. If you need to write these pronouns again, write them. Some of you need to write them 1,000 times. Some of you can get them in one try. That is life. Okay? Life lesson. It stinks to high heaven if somebody can write it once and they get it and you have to write it 1,000 times, but you do what you have to do to get this. Yo quiero. Tú quieres. Él, ella, usted quiere. Nosotros, nosotras queremos. And who lives in the bottom? Teachers, make sure they answer. Ellos, ellas, ustedes. If you don't know these 5 forms, quiero, quieres, quiere, queremos, quieren, that is also tu tarea, your homework. Get them memorized. There's no understanding first. Just memorize them. Quiero, quieres, quiere, queremos, quieren. Quiero, quieres, quiere, queremos, quieren. And then start practicing with their people so you know that quieres represents you. Tú quieres. Okay? Practice, practice, practice. Memorize, memorize, memorize. Buena suerte.